Want to speed up your language learning? Get access to all of our best PDF cheat sheets for free. Just click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account right now.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alisha, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Mohammed Bashir. Hi Mohammed. Mohammed says, my problem is that if someone is talking to me, I can understand, but I can't answer really. Also, I don't have a very good vocabulary, so how do I improve my English speaking skills? Yes, this is a very common question, and lots of you have written to me to ask a similar question. So let's talk about some things that you can do. Let's review some things you can do to work on your speaking skills. So the first thing that you mentioned in this question was that when someone is talking to you, you can understand a lot of what they're saying, right? But you have trouble answering, right? And sharing lots of information in your answer. So that to me says that you have lots of practice listening, right? Which is great. Then you need to go to the next step, which is practicing your speaking skills. Okay, so let's cover some tips that you can use to work on your speaking skills, especially if you don't have someone to practice with. The first thing that you can do is just practice reading out loud. You can choose a news article, you can choose something from a magazine, something from social media, whatever. Just pick it up and practice reading that out loud to practice your speaking skills. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is something called shadowing. That means you listen to something in English and then you try to repeat back what that person said as quickly as possible using the same pronunciation, using the same rhythm and the same intonation. So lots of people like to use YouTube videos like this one, or maybe podcasts, or they like to use other kinds of maybe interview content, for example, to practice shadowing. This is another way that you can practice speaking. If you have a teacher or a conversation partner, of course, those are great opportunities for you to practice your speaking skills too. So there's 3 tips that I hope can help you to improve your speaking skills. And remember, you need to make sure that speaking is part of your regular practice, part of your regular study plan. If you do lots of listening practice, that's great, but you also need to make sure you're working on building these other skills too. So don't forget to practice your speaking skills every week. And the same thing goes for your reading skills and your writing skills as well. Make sure you're building up all of these skills and not just listening. I know that's maybe the easiest, especially if you're using online content to practice your language skills, but make sure that you spend time developing your other skills too. So there are 3 tips for practicing your speaking skills. Speaking out loud from written information, practicing with a teacher or a conversation partner, and doing shadowing exercises with audio information. So I hope that this helps you to build your speaking skills, and this will also help you to build your vocabulary too. So thanks very much for the question. I know lots of people have the same question, so I hope those 3 tips can help you right away and you can get started immediately. Okay, let's go on to the next question for this week. Next question comes from Ruby. Hi Ruby. Ruby says, what is the difference between mental and spiritual? Ooh, nice question. Okay, so we typically use the word mental when we want to talk about someone's mindset, someone's way of thinking, and maybe their way of behaving as well. So in an example sentence, we might say something like, my mental state hasn't been so good lately. I've had a lot of stress at work. Or another example might be, I'm going to take a break from the city and get out into the forest for a little mental refresh this weekend. So we use mental to talk about our mindset in this way. And of course, the word mentally is also very, very commonly used. Like, for example, I'm just feeling so stressed mentally these days. We also use the word mental as a slang word, which means crazy or really super exciting. So we can use this in negative ways and in positive ways. For example, the club was mental last night, or that party was mental, which means that it was really, really crazy or exciting and in a good way. You might also hear mental being used in a negative way to talk about someone's strange behavior. If someone is doing something strange or they're behaving in a strange manner, you might hear someone refer to that behavior as mental, but this use of mental is generally considered quite rude today, so it's not recommended that you use it, but you may hear people use it in this way from time to time. So again, this is not considered a good word to use to talk about someone's behavior because it's rude to people that have actual mental struggles. But when you hear or see somebody using mental in this way, that is what it means. So we can use mental in a few different situations. So let's go back to the original question about the difference between mental and spiritual. We talked about mental relating to the mind. Spiritual tends to relate to the spirit then. So for everybody, we have kind of a different understanding of what our spirit means or doesn't mean. So this word, spiritual, can have kind of a different meaning depending on the person. For many people, spiritual is something that is connected to their religion or to their belief system. So for some people, they have a close connection to a religion of some kind, and therefore their spirit is closely connected to their religion. For other people, maybe the universe or nature or stars and planets and things has a strong connection for them. They feel some kind of strong connection to these kinds of natural things, and they feel that that's a connection to their spirit. So they might associate those things as being very spiritual. So depending on the person, spiritual can have a slightly different meaning. But this generally refers to kind of our belief system about how we live our lives and how we behave, how we conduct ourselves, and so on. So again, to kind of summarize the differences here, mental and mentally refers to the mind, our way of thinking and our way of kind of considering our situation. Spiritual or spiritually refers to our belief system and how the world, as we understand it, connects to our spirit or to our soul. So although these words are sometimes used together a lot to talk about the ways that we behave or the ways that we make decisions, they do have different connections. Mental refers to the mind, spiritual to the spirit. So I hope that this helps you understand the differences and the different uses of these words. Thanks very much for an interesting question. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Next question comes from Abu Bakar Keita. Hello, Abu Bakar. I hope I said your name right. Abu Bakar says, "Hi Alisha, what can I do to keep new vocabulary in my long-term memory? I always forget new vocabulary very quickly. And my second question is, what do I do to understand native speakers? I can understand some people, but there are other people who are super fast for me, so I can't catch all the words they say. Thanks." Okay, so I think your two questions are actually related here. The first question about remembering new vocabulary for a long time, this I would recommend reviewing for. So that means don't just study a new vocabulary word or a new phrase one time. You'll remember it for maybe a day, an hour or so, a short time, but you won't remember it long term. So the key here is to review. Review. So that means using maybe flashcards so that you can check those words again and again, or maybe you have digital flashcard tools that will allow you to review the items that you struggled with before. So make sure that you have some kind of vocabulary review process in your studies. Another really good thing that you can do to review and to make sure that words stick is to start creating with those new words as soon as possible. So if you learn a new word from your vocabulary studies, awesome. Then try making a sentence or try writing an email with that word in it. Do something so that you have to create something new using that word. So you need to get comfortable with the word, right? So it's not just learning to identify the word, but it's also creating something new with that word. Make sure that you have both of those processes happening, yeah? That will help the word to stick in your long-term memory, and then it will also help you with question 2 that you had, which was about not being able to catch all the words from some native speakers, right? So of course there's a little bit of speed that you need to consider there. Some people are going to speak at a different speed. Some people are going to speak faster and less clearly than other people. But if you're practicing vocabulary and you're studying vocabulary and using that vocabulary, then you're going to boost your vocabulary skills and increase the chances of catching all the words that those fast speakers are saying. So in part 1, you'll be working on improving your long-term vocabulary study skills, and then hopefully that will contribute to, or that will help you to grow and answer your question for part 2 about catching all of the words that quick native speakers use. So that would be my recommendation here. Make sure to review the words that you study, actually create something with them, and then that will contribute to your ability to understand those words in fast native speech. So thanks very much for sending this question along, and I hope that these tips help you out. All right, that is everything that I have for this week's lesson. Thank you, as always, for sending me your great questions. Remember, you can send them to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alisha. question, Alisha. There is also a link for this in the YouTube description, so check that out. If you like this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alisha, and I will see you again next time. Bye!